All right, Shalom. Giving all honor, all praise, and all glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rachak Wadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and bishops at the great millstone that rule well. And as always, peace, blessings, and salutations until the four elect tabernacle of David that is scattered abroad across the four winds of the earth. Now, I just wanted to do a response to the elder Ariala, the lesson that he put up yesterday. 501c3 groups are compromised. It's a very eye-opening lesson. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Get the edification, that comes, from the channel. And he pretty much was going into how these different organizations that end up getting these grants, getting this funding from these corporate entities, once they do that, once they make a covenant, with the devil, they have to deviate from their original mission, their original priority, and they have to align their own goals or their own objectives with the very corporate entity that's funding them. All right. In other words, you got to sell out. And the information was very eye-opening. All right. I mean, which we already we had an idea of how it all goes. When you look up, what the purpose is for a 501c3 charter, then you go back to Lyndon B. Johnson and the statute that he put in place. And you got a lot of people that benefit from it, and they don't have to pay taxes. They're tax exempt and they get all this money, but they're supposed to use it in a way that government entity expects you to use it. All right. So whatever your original goals were, once you get this filing, once you get this this tax exemption, you got to fall in line. And not only do they oversee you, but the IRS oversees everything that you do. So this explains why certain Israelite groups, they raise to prominence in Israel and they start switching the doctrine up. Start to become more world friendly. They start acting like they're doing community work. That's all. It's all a front. Okay. So this puts it in perspective. And what he did is he went to that app, Grunt, if I'm not mistaken. And he typed in, what is a non-profit industrial complex, in which he had heard it being broken down by that nigga Charleston White, and he was making solid points on it. All right, and it all makes sense. When you really observe how these type of organizations move. All right. So in this video, which I'm gonna try to make it quick, because I gotta head to the plantation in a little bit. But basically what I did was I went to the Chat GPT version. All right. And I pretty much asked the same question the elder Ariala posed on this app. And it gave a similar answer. All right. Matter of fact, let me go to it. Let me see. Let me try to refresh it. All right. So let me, because it worked. I'm gonna have to search it again. So I'll just type in, what is the nonprofit industrial complex. Now, this is what it actually says, and I'm gonna get straight into the scriptures. But it says the nonprofit industrial complex is a term that refers to the way in which large profit organizations, particularly those focused on social justice, humanitarian, and advocacy work, can become entangled in systems of power, profit, and bureaucracy. Right? And that explains, why you have these men, these prominent figures in Israel, and they rose up, playing this, Pharisee role, enforcing the law down people's throats. They care about their image, and that's basically what they're protecting. All right, they're prioritizing their image, their status, and their pockets over caring for the sheep. All right, so it says the concept critiques how nonprofits, despite their missions to serve the public good, often operate in ways that mirror capitalist structures, prioritizing institutional survival, funding acquisition, and organizational growth over the needs of the communities they aim to serve. Right? Nonprofits often rely on government grants, corporate donations, or philanthropic funding, which can influence their agendas and lead to a prioritization of funders' interests over the needs of marginalized communities. All right, so they depend on funding, all right, basically from the beast, all right, the government, and once you start to get any type of funding from them, you now have to align your mission and your objective with theirs. Because once you start to go against the grain, you start to, pretty much go against the grain, all right, they can revoke this funding. They could take away your status. They could send the IRS on you like they did Comfy. So basically, you got to be on point. So this is why you got these different men who are constantly reshaping their doctrine. They're twisting it. This is why they play stupid. When it comes to giving warning to our people of the days that are to come, because it goes against the interests of the same corporate entities that funds them. And this is going to be pivotal when it comes to the time of the MOTB. They can't go against the grain, so they're going to have to be on board, just like they were when the jabs were being pushed on the people. They would gaslight you if you was questioning the whole ordeal. Now they have to change their whole stance and align themselves with the powers that be, because they're compromised. All right. Now it seems like they're helping out the people, but really they're doing it as a disguise. All right, just to really protect their pockets and to get unjust gain, doing it all for filthy lucre. It says bureaucratic inefficiency. As nonprofits grow in size and complexity, they can become burdened with administrative overheads, which may reduce their capacity for direct service and activism. Co-optation of grassroots movements. Large nonprofits may take over a dilute grassroots social movements, shifting focus away from the radical change and instead offering more moderate, incremental reforms that are palatable to funders and the political establishment. It says some critiques point to the growing salaries of nonprofit executives and staff, suggesting that the system can mirror capitalist corporate structures where those at the top benefit more than the communities they serve. Yep. And that's why they'll have a high net worth. But the people that supporting them and following them, they're living, regular everyday lives, and, they're not making that much money, still struggling. So, what moves these type of individuals to serve this interest? Yeah, bribes, money, which some coveted after, and now they're erring from the truth. So this goes into another aspect of it, but for reference, you can go back and watch this video, where the other app breaks it down. Okay, they under this particular statute, you have certain conditions and ramifications and guidelines. So it's certain things that you can and certain things that you can't do. All right, up under this organization. All right. Now let's get a couple precepts. This is why the scriptures tell us not to make any covenants and also not to take any gifts. This is Exodus 23:8, and I'm gonna read it in the NLT. This is why some of these guys are just not urgent and passionate when it comes to, warning our people, warning the sheep about what's getting ready to come, warning them about what's coming from this beast system. All right, constantly changing up and twisting up the doctrine, just as a better way to suit, all right, what their objective is. All right, and their objective is to serve the interests of the corporate entities that's giving them money, that's paying them, because they got to really push what the government is objecting to. This is Exodus 23:8. It says, "Take no bribes, for a bribe makes you ignore something that you clearly see." And you seeing the enemy is coming, and you can't really warn them. You can't be urgent in your warning. You might touch on it here and there, but you're gonna somehow deviate left. We can't talk too much about the MOT to the B, and every time we talk about it, we're gonna switch it up. Right when it looked like Nate's gonna try to come around to say what it actually is, he'll deviate. It becomes something else, and it's constantly changing and changing. That's because you're under that order. You under that bribe, man. And we can all see it as clear as day. It says a bribe makes even a righteous person twist the truth. So that's what motivates a lot of these guys to sell out. They have to make it friendly enough and make sure that it's in alignment with, corporate interests. So it is extremely wicked what these guys have done. This is why we maintain that these guys clearly sold out. They've been compromised. All right. So when the mark becomes mandatory, they're going to tell you to go ahead and take it, because it doesn't mean that. And these very same groups that now are commercially prominent now, right? They've been the main dudes who use terms like conspiracy theory. Labeling, if you got a so-called prophet, a man of the Lord, and he's calling other Israelite prophets conspiracy theorists, That should raise your antennas. That's a red flag. Because when you know the truth, none of it is a theory. It's all a fact. Even the scriptures go into how the counsel of the wicked is a conspiracy. So that money is blinding them. So they're acting like they can't see what's being done. They know what's being done, but they got to pretend like they don't know and deceive the people. And the Lord referred to these men as hirelings. Okay? They really do not care about the sheep like that. Let's go to John. Matter of fact, no, let me go to Isaiah 56 first. Isaiah 56 and verse 10, it says, "For the leaders of my people, the Lord's watchmen, are his shepherds, are blind and ignorant. They are like silent watchdogs that give no warning when danger comes. They love to lie around, sleeping and dreaming. Like greedy dogs, they are never satisfied. They're ignorant shepherds, all following their own path and intent on personal gain." All right. And that's why, they're settled on a lease. This is why their top leader of their groups, you barely see them on the highways and hedges. They're not out there on the front lines, with their men. All right. They're not like it says in Ezekiel the 13th chapter, they're not let me go to it. This is Ezekiel 13 and verse Ezekiel 13 and 4, it says, "O Israel, thy prophets are like the foxes in the deserts. You have not gone up into the gaps, neither made up the hedge for the house of Israel to stand in the battle in the day of the Lord." Instead that they're creating an opening for the enemy to be able to breeze right through and conquer the Lord's sheep. All right. The scriptures talk about there is a conspiracy of our prophets. Now, and like with the ISUPK and the IUIC, they seem to be rivals, but a lot of their doctrine seems to be an alliance, and they both happen to be under the 501c3. All right, they both teach that you can have sex on the Sabbath day. They both teach that we're in the new covenant. So, and amongst other things, but they seem to be beefing on the surface. Ezekiel 22. Ezekiel 22 and 25, it says, "Your princes plot conspiracies just as lions stalk their prey. They devour innocent people, seizing treasures and extorting wealth. They make many widows in the land. Your priests have violated my instructions and defiled my holy things." Making their doctrine more aligned with the world, watering down the truth. All right. They become more commercialized, which made them bigger. All right. It says they make no distinction between what is holy and what is not. Profaning the Sabbath. The Passovers is one big party. It's not even sacred anymore. It says, "And they do not teach my people the difference between what is ceremonial, clean and unclean. They disregard my Sabbath day so that I am dishonored among them. Your leaders are like wolves who tear apart their victims. They actually destroy people's lives for money." All right. That's why the Lord said, beware of these false prophets that are sheep and wolves' clothing. They all been compromised. And that fuels them to set up these heresies. They start teaching and distorting the truth. 2 Peter 2:1, and this is in the Amplified. It says, "But in those days false prophets arose among the people, just as there will be false teachers among you who will subtly introduce destructive heresies." All right, and we're gonna see what they come up with when that chip becomes mandatory. All right, when it's by law, and if you preach against it, you're actually going against the law. We'll see how many of them got legs to stand on when that time comes. We'll see who the cowards are then. Because the last time you folded when they was making it mandatory to take those jump shots, that damn serum. It says, even denying the master who brought them. Yeah, you denying Yahweh Shai who called you with an holy calling. All right, and you the moment you sell out, you denounce him. Because now you have to deviate from the established aim, the established mission. Now you serving your own belly in the interest of the elites that are funding you now. So that it makes sense when Yahweh Shai returns and y'all gonna say, Lord, Lord, did we not go out there and do the work? Sure. Now get away from me, you that work iniquity. All right. Bringing swift destruction on themselves, many will follow their shameful ways, and because of them, the way of truth will be maligned. And they start speaking evil against the true doctrine. It says, and in their greed, they will exploit you with false arguments and twisted doctrine. That's what they're doing. When it comes to, breaking down the true understanding of these prophecies. The MOTB is now is sin, is Christianity, is sleeping with white women, is this and that. Anything except for what it actually is. So they have to, twist it. All right, because they're behind the scenes. They're down with the government. It says their sentence of condemnation, which the Most High has decreed from a time long ago, is not idle, but is still in force, which is eventually they're going to meet their demise. And their destruction and deepening misery is not asleep, but is on its way. All right. So a lot of you dudes, you're going to, the Lord's going to, bring your sins forward, and your sins are going to, testify against you that you sold out. All right. That you basically, you're a bloodshedder because you didn't warn the sheep. You got compromised, and instead of taking a stand and doing what the Lord commanded, you aborted that mission to serve your own interests and the interests of those who give you these privileges so that you can be comfortable, so that you can have some type of status and wealth on this side. And that's what them wicked scribes and Pharisees were doing with the Romans. The Romans kept them dudes propped up, and they didn't want to lose their position. And that's why they was coming against the disciples in the middle of the Lord, because the people were starting to hear them. And that was basically a threat, to their following. So that's why they want to, get rid of Yahweh Shai. Why are you coming in that name? Now all of a sudden the name doesn't matter. They're going to use the name Christ because it's more world friendly. The government will only support you if you use Christ, the name that all people use. Don't go using that other name. So you see it is all right in our face. All right. So anyway, hopefully this was edifying. Give all honor, all praise, and glory to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. To the next one, Shalom.